Hi everybody, I'm Dave Fresilli with Holistic Health and Fitness. Welcome back. So this is part 2 of our series on nutrition and eating better. So again, today we're going to talk about carbohydrates, but before we go into this, let's review those basic understandings. And again, the idea is I want you to start really changing how you're thinking about your eating. So important, because it's really about our perceptions about eating that are the biggest challenge for most of us. Most of us don't even think, really. We're just kind of on this track of eating whatever we want most of the time. We don't really take into consideration what we're eating or the quality of what we're eating. We just want something to eat. So I want you to really start thinking about, what am I actually eating here? What's the quality of it before you buy it, or before you order it in a restaurant, or before you buy it off the shelf and eat it in a fast food restaurant or something like that. So really start thinking about and changing your way of thinking about how you're eating to eating high quality foods. Remember, every time you have a meal, those foods that you're eating and how it affects your body is either going to have a positive hormonal response or a negative hormonal response. Positive is going to be more energy, you're feeling a lot better, your body's healing itself. Negative is going to be going down that of less energy or feeling exhausted or digestive issues or allergies and food intolerances, etc. And then long term, it can lead to illness and disease. So, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to increase our levels of quality that we eat and of the types of foods we're eating, okay? And then remember, we want to start eating based on health and wellness. The better you eat, the more you'll increase your health and wellness. When you start eating the foods that help your body heal itself, you create that health and wellness. And just remember, we don't want to eat to lose weight. And again, yes, you can. It can work very well. If you can eat to lose weight, and that's understandable because you can calorie restrict, etc. But I don't want you to think about it that way. What I want you to start doing is really seriously thinking about, I'm eating to increase my health and wellness. And when I do that, when I eat high quality foods in the right proportion that's right for me, I'm increasing my health and wellness. And when you do that, your body will acclimate to the weight that is proper for you, that healthy weight for you, okay? And which means is if you're overweight, you'll lose the weight that you want to lose, but you'll do it in a healthy way, your body getting increasingly more healthy as you do so. All right, so again, today, as I promised, is about carbohydrates. So, and again, this is very basic, but that's all you need. The basics are really where it's at. So we talked about proteins before. This is all about carbohydrates. Really basic, folks. Carbohydrates are broken down into 2 categories. Complex carbohydrates, which are whole grains, or what we want to consider whole grains. That's what if you're going to eat complex carbohydrates, I want you eating whole grains, which means they haven't stripped out the outer fibrous shell of it. You're getting the whole grain, right? Pretty easy. And because you're getting that, you're getting high quality fiber. It also slows down the digestion of the starches that are in that grain, which is a very good thing. Otherwise, without that, when they strip that off, the body can get right to that starch because there's nothing stopping it, and you get these bigger insulin spikes or sugar spikes and then insulin spikes, and that's where the challenge is with refined carbohydrates. So complex carbohydrates, and that goes all across the board, all those kind of grains that you're thinking of and your vegetables. So really important. That's where I want you focusing. You're eating lots of good, healthy, clean vegetables and moderate amounts of whole grains. I wouldn't go crazy on whole grains, depending on who you are. Some people can tolerate them more. And again, I'm not going into just yet about if people are intolerant or such things as gluten intolerances, and gluten is in a lot of grains, so we have to be careful with that. But having said that, whole grains and vegetables, really critical. You should be doing lots of vegetables, moderate amounts of whole grains. And again, that's as long as you're not intolerant to it. And again, we're keeping this general. And then the other thing we want to talk about are what we call simple carbohydrates or simple sugars. And the 2 forms that you should be taking that in are fruits and berries. So all the fruits you can think of and all the berries. Now, having said that, that's very general when we talk about simple carbohydrates, simple sugars. I would tell you that things like tropical fruits are much higher in sugar than the other types of fruits that we're thinking at. So when I say fruits, for most of us, I would tell you that it should be things like berries, apples, pears, etc. But when we get into eating tropical fruits, understand that the sugars are much higher, and so that can cause a sugar spike and an insulin response that goes along with that sugar spike. So we do have to be careful with that. I'm not going to get into the idea of food combining just yet, but it is important for most of us that when we're eating fruits, especially if we're doing tropical fruits, that you should be eating that with something else, either a protein or a fat, so that that protein and or fat can slow down that breakdown of the fruit sugars. Does that make sense? So that we don't have that spike in our sugar, which then gets a spike in our insulin levels. We want to stay away from that. We want a nice level blood sugar level, never big spikes or drops, okay? So again, very quickly, carbohydrates, very, very important. It is a good source of fuel for our body. It's what our body wants to burn because it's there and it's available. Complex carbohydrates, vegetables, and then moderate amounts of grains. And again, the grains should be whole grains. And again, it's here on the list. The idea is whether it's the complex carbohydrates or the fruits and the simple sugars, right? They should all be non-GMO. They should all be raised organically or biodynamically, so that we don't want anything that's been treated with synthetic pesticides, herbicides, rodenticides, fungicides, and fertilizers. We want to stay away from any of those synthetic ides, okay? So until then, try and do that. Now you know about proteins and you know about carbohydrates. We're not talking about portions yet. The idea is just start focusing on the food quality that you're taking in. This will go a long way. So we have one more video left. It's going to be on lipids or fats, same thing. And so that will be the next one coming up. Stay tuned for that. Until then, this is E Fresilli with Holistic Health and Fitness, and I want you all to go out and live a vibrant life. Take care.